XJ Talk Show.
It's on.
Now.
Well, many of you are sorely aware of the power outage today. Yes, unfortunately in Houston, Texas, we're not used to having anything in the 20-degree range. And apparently they didn't, they being the power company, didn't put build in enough power into the system to be able to handle everybody's heater being on. Now, my heater is gas powered, so I don't know. I'm doing my part. I think we had about 4 hours total power outage here today at the xjtalk.com studios. And I use that term loosely. Well, I guess first off I should say, my name's Tony Mutteroy on xjtalk.com. And tonight will be our second half of the Rene rguignard interview. Did I say interview? I want to thank everybody for showing up to the show an hour late. Not you, but me. I'm an hour late, but I had a good excuse. Did I mention we were without power? If I had a bleep button, I would have used the word. Jim's favorite word. We'll get started here in just a minute. I don't know if Rene's going to be able to make it with us tonight because he gets up at the crack of 3 a.m. every day. We'll get it started here in just a second. This segment brought to you by DetoursUSA.com. 10 years of innovating, not imitating XJ products. Check out www.detoursusa.com. And Detours wants to remind everyone to practice safe sex. No pig borking till you wrap that rascal. I gotta wait for the pig.
xjtalk.com.
xjtalk.com.
It's where you go when you're not off-road.
Do you have questions or comments that you would like played on the air? We've set up voicemail just for that purpose. All you have to do is call 530-675-4102. Just leave your name, your location, and your question or comment. Chances are good it'll get played on the air. That number again is 530-675-4102. We look forward to hearing from you today.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you about xjtalk.com. It's a great site. There's no bashing. Everybody's nice and friendly. Great place to be.
Well, that's only partially true. We do have bashing on bashing night, but everybody enjoys it.
xjtalk.com.
xjtalk.com.
It's where you go when you're not off-road.
Okay, guys. It's not going to be the normal polished show that you're so accustomed to, since I normally have about 2 hours to get things together and going prior to the actual broadcast. So it's just going to be what you get tonight. But I think it's all right. I've been doing it long enough where I think I've got it down fairly well. I agree. So what's up with you guys? I see we've got a whopping 3 people in the chat room. It says number of viewers is 2, and I still haven't looked up what that 14 means. Oh, and I need to change this, don't I? Part 2 of 2. Rene interview. Yeah, see, these little things like this should have been taken care of by the staff. So you guys are very silent in the chat room. Are you? Is it stunned silence? Let's see, Weldman, Stefan, Punisher. And that's it. And Rene hasn't responded yet. I wonder if he's already in bed. Yeah, that's what he says. I asked him if he was in. He says, nope, go into bed. Well, good. We're going to be talking to him. So there will be no Q&A tonight of Mr. Rene. Let me, let's see. I got a tan today. Punisher says, everybody else has power problems too. Weldman says, me too. I was welding though. I guess that was because that was your power problem. Stefan says, wow, you pronounced my name very correctly. Stefan B74. Oh, and I just got notification from Site Uptime, which is a internet service, telling me that the xjtalk.com website is back up. Good to know. Okay, I'll join you guys here in the chat room in just a second. Let's get this interview, part 2 of Rene rguignard from xjtalk.com, his interview. And here we are back with part 2 of the interview with Rene rguignard from xjtalk.com. And my name is Tony Motoroy on XJTalk. Rene, thanks for sticking around for this second half.
Oh, no problem. I enjoy it.
So what I was thinking, we left off on the last bit of the interview where we were talking about what it is that you need to go off-road, which is basically the Jeep. Of course, we believe it's the Jeep Cherokee, and some recovery points, and maybe a winch if you can swing it. But I think that some of the things that you've added to yours, because even though you have a lift, it's not a 4.5 inch, a 6.5 inch lift. It was a modest lift, and you've certainly been able to go a bunch of places just because of the ability of the Jeep and having the rear axle locked. But you did put some recovery points on your vehicle by way of custom bumpers.
Yes, I did. What I actually did, like everybody else who has a Jeep like ours, I started out with, 3.5 inch lift, thinking I'll only put 31s on it, I'll never go any bigger. But boy, was that wrong. I wish I would have went 4.5. In all honesty, I wish I would have went 4.5 and went 33s from the get-go. I didn't do that. Now I've ended up cutting my fenders and putting 33s on it, but it works for me. And I got to the point where I got to looking at my Jeep one day and I said, I got to make a decision if I'm going to wheel it, and not care about body image, or if I'm going to start, maybe not wheeling it so hard and trying to keep the body looking pretty like yours. And well, as you can tell, I gave up on the body work.
Well, I mean, that's a great plan, but unless you have the funds to buy another vehicle, or you're just not going to go out and have fun with it anymore, that's really your only choices. You could get another one, or decide I'm not going to drive it off road. And if you're going to drive it off road, you don't wheel it hard. You drive it like I do. I take it easy. Of course, I get into a situation where I'm saying, damn it, I'm going to get up that embankment, and then I do some damage. But mine is very minor and more cosmetic than anything else. You've certainly, with just the oversized tires that you've used, and when I say oversized tires that were really too big for the size lift that you had, you've really done some things, I don't want to say damage, but you really pushed some fenders in with those tires.
Yeah, I really mutilated my, pretty much mutilated my front fenders by doing what I did.
Oh, and actually, this wasn't the direction I was going with this, but now that I say that, I remember you talking about potentially going with some customized fiberglass fenders. Fiberglass, right?
Yeah, that's what I was actually thinking.
Yeah, those things
I was
are pretty.
actually looking at the pre-runner fenders that some of the guys in the pre-runner type Jeeps, the Jeep Speed people use. They have it's cut probably as much or maybe even a little more than mine, but it's also extended 6 inches out. So that way it covers up some of these big tires. And for some of you who have Jeeps in states that have fender flare requirements, them fenders might not be a bad idea for y'all. I found them on one online site for like $160 for the pair. Now, of course, it's also $90 to ship them to the Continental 48, but you know, it's a thought, and I may still go that way with mine. Haven't made up my mind for sure. The only thing I'm a little concerned with is fiberglass and trees don't get along. That was going to be my next question. Was how are you going to address that potential issue? Because I mean, they're actually. It sounds like they cost about as much as some Bushwhacker flares if you were just to buy 2 of them. Gosh, the Bushwhacker you can kind of take off and throw on the ground and keep going. You crack that fender, I guess you wind up with duct tape. Well, yeah, I guess that would go along with the rest of my Jeep. Poor Jeep. But no, actually, you know, I kind of know what I would do. I've been thinking in the works about making me some tube type flares out of steel, and I'm going to actually weld them to my rock rails in my front bumper. And if I decided to go with the fiberglass fenders, I would just make them a little bigger than what I originally thought. Kind of bring them out right to the edge of the fender. That way, if I were to rub something, I'm actually rubbing the tube instead of the fender. Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. I go back. I can't remember who it was, but I go back to the guy on the site that built some of those tube fenders, and there was a picture of him standing on them with them mounted to the Jeep, and I thought those things really looked good, and certainly were very strong. I mean, he wasn't a 250-pound gentleman, but certainly in the 150, 180 range. So they were substantial. Anyway, right. Going back to the bumpers that you made that gave you the toe points so that you could be pulled out and also to have the ability to mount a winch. Those were all things that you built yourself. Just cut up the metal, envisioned it, cut up the metal, and welded it together, and painted it a bright green, which I think was just marvelous, because that green and the dark color of your Jeep really sets it off. It's kind of like look at me, get the hell out of the way, something. Yeah, it's really funny because my bumpers do tend to make people move out of your way when you're running down the road. I was noticing that there is a lot of nicks and chips and stuff on your paint. I did not realize how much action those bumpers have seen, and I'm talking about the Stinger on the front bumper had a lot of marks on it. Yeah, I wheel my Jeep pretty hard. I mean, everybody says that you can't wheel them hard down here. Well, tell you what, I would beg to differ with these people and say, come for a trail ride with us. You might be pleasantly surprised what you have to drive your Jeep through, but don't be afraid to get it dirty, because you're going to get dirty down here. Yeah, easily. I guess we're kind of lucky at Creekside that it's more sand than it is mud, because I know closer to Galveston and the Bay and Gulf of Mexico, you get closer to the gumbo, that mud that is, gosh, it almost leaps off the ground and sticks to you. It's so sticky. And after watching that video that Scott XJ4IV put up on the site, I understand why he doesn't like mud. Oh yeah, that one where he's like not even stuck, but he's just spinning on top and is throwing up these big gray clunks of crap.
Yeah. And he was stuck there. And then I saw him in the video. He's out of the Jeep and he's sinking down in it. I think he was better off in the Jeep than he was out of it.
Oh, I know. He said he was actually telling me he lost a pair of rubber boots in that mud.
Yeah, it just sticks to you and sucks things off of you, and it's just amazing. I mean, that to me is what being off-road is, because that was whenever I was 22, 24, and I had my first four-wheel drive in Baytown. That's the kind of off-road mudding. And when I hear people say, mud's nothing, you need to get rocks for a challenge, rocks are more challenging. No, you get into gumbo, it's very challenging.
And you get in the type of mud that video was taken in, it matters none what tires you have.
No, they
You
fill
can
up.
have 3,000 horsepower in boggers or paddles, and you're still not going to go through it.
You go a little bit. The trick is the line and your forward momentum.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and of course the sliding around, and there's not as much risk of flipping in the mud as you are in the rocks. And I understand that's part of the appeal, because you're doing something that not everybody feels comfortable doing. But anyway, so you got some tow points. I know that you've used the rear bumper, because I saw you recovered out of a nice mud hole, water-filled mud hole. That was actually the same place that I saw you. I think that was the first time you had 33s on your Jeep, and you bent that fender, the back of the fender, pretty bad, trying to go through that hole. But you got winched out that day from the rear bumper. Have you used the front bumper at all? I mean, as far as somebody pulling you out, or have you just used it for pulling yourself out using your winch?
Actually both. I have actually used it to pull people, used it to get pulled out of something, only because I went through a big mud hole that somebody else had just went through, and they got winched out. Well, when I got stuck, the other guy was sitting there already with his winch pulled, so he just looked at my bumper and pulled me out too, instead of unraveling my winch. So yes, I have actually used it as both. And run into trees with it. I've run into, you name it. It's been it's been in contact with it, and so far, just as solid as a rock.
Now, I know that you got a special deal on the metal that you used to build those bumpers, but if you had to estimate a cost in both dollar amount and time, what do you think it would be?
Dollar amount for the metal, probably somewhere between $50 and $100.
Okay.
In all honesty, time. Well, being that I've built that bumper 3 times now, you could probably buy a set of bumpers full having my front bumper. Only because of how many times I've rebuilt it. When I first built it, it was just a solid single piece of metal across the front, no contour, no nothing. Got sick of looking at that, cut it down, and put a taper on the ends. Got sick of looking at that, cut it down, and put more of a taper and angled it into my, into the front end a little bit more. So yeah, I've been through this bumper several times now.
Right, but I mean, when you say you could probably buy a bumper, it's really not a monetary investment more than what you were just saying, $50 or $100 for the materials. It was just a time investment, and I would imagine you kind of enjoyed that, if not enjoyed doing it, enjoyed the outcome of how your vision came to life on the Jeep.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't. At this point, multiple reasons. I have a real hard time paying for something I know how to do myself. And I guess that's because, everybody who makes bumpers and stuff, most of these people are very good welders, and I'm a very good welder. So, I have a hard time paying for something that I know I can make. Mine may not be as nice as some of the other bumpers out there, but I know I can do it. Right. I could actually make something as nice as yours if I had the time to actually sit down and do it.
Mm-hmm.
The welding and the grinding, I mean, anybody can weld and grind. And that's one thing for everybody, and everybody who's thinking about doing that themselves, remember, grinder's your best friend.
Now, with the bumper that you built, I mean, I guess in defense of the time that you spent on the bumper and its artistic value, that wasn't really your goal with this bumper. Your goal was for something that was functional. Any kind of artistic or wish to make it look better was really the next 2 or 3 times that you took a run at it. So, well, I think I'll try this, and I'll think I try this, but the ultimate goal was recovery points and protection, and a place to put the winch.
Correct. That is the truth. When I put the very first bumper on there, would it have worked for everything I wanted to do? Oh yeah. I knew I was going to put a winch on the Jeep eventually. So when I built the original bumper, I made it exactly where it's at now. It was sitting in the same spot. I've just improved from the bumper, the bumper mount brackets out is the only improvements I've made to it. And then we're just strictly for make it prettier. But yeah, I knew what I was going to do. I knew I needed recovery points, and I knew I was going to put a winch on it. So the very first bumper I built was set up to do that.
So if you had to estimate a time that it took you to, or not that it took you, but that it would take you, knowing what you know now, if you just had the metal and you got out there and you put this thing together, how much time do you think it would take you to build that bumper, for a second time? And I understand that it would probably go a little faster knowing what you know, but this would give the listeners an idea how much time investment they would have to put into building their own bumper.
Honestly, for the front bumper, to build it exactly what I have now, you could probably duplicate it and not using big fancy tools. I mean, most of my bumper was cut up with my bumper, almost all the metal in my bumper was cut with either a Sawzall or a grinder and welded together with a pretty nice welder. I would say you could probably duplicate it in half a day, 3/4 of a day.
So certainly a
4 or
weekend.
6 hours, yeah.
Certainly a weekend you could have a bumper for your Jeep. So
easily.
So $100, $150 worth of metal, overestimate a little bit, and a weekend. Now you've got your own custom bumper on your Jeep, and you have a place to put a winch if you choose to get one, and a place to put lights, all kinds of stuff. So it's something that anybody can do if you have access to a welder, and I would assume that you could even do that with an arc welder that you could rent.
Oh, yes, you could. I did mine with a MIG welder, only because that's what I have access to more than anything. And for anybody who is thinking about doing something like this, always remember, if you have a scrapyard around, they sell metal as well as buy it.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
They will sell it by the pound, just like they do buy it by the pound. So, yeah, if you actually go in there and say, hey, look, I'm looking for some, 2x4 square tubing, 6 foot long, do you have any? And they'll tell you yes or no, and they'll tell you how much it is. So don't ever forget that that's always a viable option.
Yeah, I guess the hard part is knowing where they are.
Well, you live out in Katy. I live in Conroe. We're, pretty good-sized town, I guess, 70,000 or 50,000 people?
Right.
We got probably 10 or 15 scrap yards in this town.
I guess that's how you'd look it up, would be scrapyard.
Yeah, scrap metal.
Scrap metal. And the rear bumper, there wasn't a lot to that one, if I remember correctly. You didn't put near the amount of time into the rear bumper, did you?
No, not even close. The rear bumper is literally a couple pieces of 2x2 square tubing, and then a piece of 2x4 square tubing with a couple end caps that I made for it. Originally, I was going to go ahead and form it into the body, just like the body is on the back of the form of the back of it. But my Jeep got hit pretty hard in the rear, and I'm actually afraid to take the rear bumper off. I'm afraid if I took the bumper off now, I wouldn't get it back on, because I'm afraid that the body would just flex enough that the bumper just wouldn't fit back on there. I'm probably wrong in that, but once it got hit, I'm good with leaving it the way it is.
Yeah, why risk it if you don't have to? It certainly has proved itself from that the Toyota passenger vehicle that rear-ended you. So
that is correct.
So you have the recovery points on the rear bumper, and it's a very simple bumper, but it does what's needed. Would you say that the cost of the metal for that would be more or less than what you spent on the front bumper?
Way less.
So $50 would be a good guess.
Yes.
And I would assume that the time to put that together probably would be in the couple hour range.
Yes.
Okay. So
maybe, not even. I would say a couple hours, because one of the things I did different than everybody else has done, I didn't mount mine back to the stock locations. It is, but it isn't. My plates that hold the rear bumper on are 1/4-inch thick, and they're bolted in the 4 factory holes. But I also took the square tubing, the 2x2 square tubing, and cut out the back frame rail and slid the tubing in as far as it would go, which was all the way to the shackle bolts. And I actually, on the bottom side, I've drilled a hole up through there, and I've actually got the bumper bolted to the frame as well. And what I did is I drilled a hole up through the metal and threaded it with a tap, and then just screwed a screw in there. So I've actually got 5 holes on my rear bumper that'll hold it. And I mean, as you say, I took a Toyota out with it, so it's plenty strong.
Yeah, and of course the bumper that I got from Detours has a similar type of attachment. It's not as in depth as what yours is. It's just a bracket that goes inside that the unibody, and of course that's what you need. You need that connection that runs parallel to the unibody, so that you can get the strength to keep the bumper on, if nothing else. Especially as a tow point, you don't want to just hook into the 8 bolts that hold the bumper to the body, because that's going to come off.
Don't want to do that.
Right. So you do need to tie into the unibody, and that's those rails that Rene's talking about, where he actually went inside of them and bolted to. So that's exactly the way you need to do it.
And to be honest with you, Tony, on my bumper, I was going to put a receiver hitch on it. I didn't end up doing it because of it being hit. But I am now rethinking I'm going to go ahead and put a receiver hitch on it, because my son now has a dirt bike that I'd like to take with me, and in order to do that, I'm going to have a receiver on mine. But I would trust putting a receiver on mine, and our Jeeps are, they say they can carry 5,000 pounds. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't really want to haul around 5,000 pounds behind the back of my Jeep.
No.
If my Jeep will probably tow it, it ain't going to stop it.
Right. It can barely stop itself with the oversized tires.
Right. So, I would trust putting a receiver hitch on mine and carrying around a little, 5x10 trailer and never think twice about it.
Right.
My bumper's plenty strong enough. I know my hitch points I know my points that I have attached to my body are plenty strong enough for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sure. I would haul it and never think twice.
So the only other thing that I at least comes across my mind that you've made is the sliders, and so the sliders. How much of material do you have? Oh, and for those of you that don't know what sliders are, basically what they're designed to do is to allow you to slide the body of the Jeep over things that are hard. It keeps the bottom, the rocker panels, from being dented. It keeps the bottoms of your door, in many cases, from being dented. They're often used in whenever you're doing, I want to say rock climbing, whenever you're going over obstacles like rocks, because you may get the wheel up and over the rock, but the rock is going to come up, or I guess the Jeep's going to come down to the rock, and if there's nothing there to protect you between the body, the thin sheet metal of the body, and the rock, it's going to damage your body. So people put these long metal tubes, and they can be tubes, round or square, and I think there's other designs, and that basically take the impact of those rocks and actually allow you to slide your Jeep across, and those heavy-duty tubes protect the body of the Jeep. And what Rene did was he built his own sliders. Now, we don't do rocks here, but I can tell you that tree stumps, trees, I mean, you know, if you go up and over a tree, depending on how hard you come down, you may make contact between that log that's on the ground and the bottom of your Jeep. So I would think that the sliders were probably about as easy as making that rear bumper, since they're just basically long square metal tubes that you actually, I would think the most difficult thing is finding the best way to connect them to the body of the Jeep. And you actually have those run to the unibody, correct?
Yeah, mine are welded on. Mine fit flush with the pinch seam of the body, and I have it tacked to the pinch seam, and then I have some more square tubing coming from the unibody to my rock rails, and they're all welded together. Mine are permanently there. Mine will never be removed from my Jeep.
And there's no problem with that, right? I mean, unless you were going to, I guess, turn it back into a grocery getter. And even at that, it doesn't hurt. I mean, how much do you think those sliders weigh? Maybe 30 pounds, 50 pounds?
I don't even think they're 30 pounds a piece. I mean, 30 pounds for the pair. They're pretty light. They're not made out of the thickest material that I could find. They're just, 2x4 square tubing. I don't know, probably, 3/16 thick or so. The metal form I actually got for free. I have zero money in my sliders, but it's because of what I do for a living that I ended up with a lot of extra metal, and I've cut it up and made them, for my Jeep. But they were actually, believe it or not, probably more complicated than my rear bumper.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. The not making the sliders themselves, but the attaching the sliders to the body, that was very time-consuming. I mean, a lot of grinding, a lot of making it work, because you have to, with the way I have my runners run from my body, from my frame to my rock sliders, I have it welded on both sides of the pinch seam, and I had to grind a slot in there and make them slide over the pinch seam just right. And there was it probably took me half a day or more just to do the attaching the sliders to the Jeep than it did making them.
And you've also, because of what you've gone through and what you've experienced after having the sliders on there, you've actually found that you should have done one extra thing to those sliders, right?
Yes. They don't stick out far enough. If you rub a tree, you're still denting your doors.
So not only can you protect the rocker and the bottom of your doors from objects coming up from the, well, I keep saying coming up. They appear to come up because you're coming down on them. Whenever you go up and over an obstacle, your Jeep can come back down on top of that obstacle and damage the rocker panel and the bottom of the door. But also, too, you can use a slider if you have it out far enough to keep trees and rocks and I guess pedestrians from actually impacting the side of your vehicle. And that's what Rene's talking about, is that he's got the slider where it protects the bottom of the Jeep, but it doesn't really protect the side of the Jeep. And, you can still, not all trees are straight. Trees have limbs, et cetera, but certainly if you're in a situation and all of a sudden, you're trying to get in between, trying to go by this tree, and the Jeep slides, well, you could be up against the tree very quickly. And
that Johnny, and another thing you use them for is pivot points. You can actually use your sliders as a pivot point to get around certain objects. You put the slider against it and just turn your wheels hard and stand on the gas and let it spin the tires and just kind of turn around the tree or rock or stump or whatever it may be. And mine are not capable of doing that. If you were to do that they're capable of doing it, but you're going to end up with body damage because of it. Right. They just don't stick out far enough.
And you've told me before, but how much further, how far were you going to extend those out? Was it 6 inches?
No, probably just a couple of inches. I want to be able to look down my door handle, basically take a level, put it on my door handle, and actually be touching the slider.
Well, a couple inches isn't bad. So that couple inches wouldn't put it out to, say, the same distance of the outside edge of your tire. Then it would actually be much closer in.
Oh, much closer, yes.
Okay.
Another thing that you left out for the sliders is one of the greatest things about a slider is when you end up with tires the size of ours, the stock jacks are absolutely useless. You
Very
have
true.
to pretty much have a high-lift jack, and the slider is the greatest place in the world to jack up your vehicle.
It's very easy to see, isn't it? You don't have to get under anything and look and make sure that you're right on the pinch seam or the axle. And in many cases, if you're off-road, you may not be able to see those things anyway because they may be buried.
That's correct. And with the case in mind, you just basically throw your jack down there and start lifting. It's going to touch it.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to getting some sliders for my vehicle, and I wish I'd had them before I dented the quarter panel, but I'm going to take care of that. That'll be just fine. You know, it's nice, too, because I don't even notice it. I think if I was in my 20s, it would just drive me insane. It bothered me enough doing it that day, and but since then, really hadn't even thought about it. So
Yeah, you have.
pretty happy about it. Well, if it was something like a door or a fender or something, then it would bother me. But I don't ever notice it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, that's why I said, you know, I've got to the point with mine that body damage is really not an option. I mean, if you know, I don't want to tear it up severely, but you know, rubbing a tree and having a scratch and a dent out of it, yeah, it's just a way of life.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also too, you can wind up messing up a door sufficiently where you won't be able to open and close it. So if you can look at it from the standpoint, you may not care about doing the superficial damage to the door, front or rear door, but in the case of a 4-door Jeep, but certainly being able to open and close the doors would be would be something that would be less convenient than a scratch or a dent. So the sliders are a very good idea, even if you're not doing rocks.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And that's one of the reasons I want to extend my sliders out a little bit more, because, you know, the real vulnerable spot of our Jeeps is right where the front and the rear door meet. You know, you bend that in, you're pretty much done. I mean,
Right.
you know, now you can't open your back or close your front door.
That's right.
And that's one of the reasons I want to go ahead and extend them out. That way there's no way for me to actually hit that. And see, one of the other things that I'm real close to doing on mine is I'm going to do a cage in mine. But I'm actually going to do like what they call a hybrid cage, which is my halo, my top bars will be on the external part of the Jeep, where all my other bars will be internal.
Would you make that, would that be like a roof rack where you would actually be able to put things on the roof, or is that how?
Now, yeah, sure you could, but I won't be using it as a roof rack.
Well, that's what I was
mean,
going to say. How do
I
you
actually removed my roof rack because of getting it hung up off, you know, when I was out in the trails.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I actually, I just myself personally don't like external cages, the exto cages. I just think they're butt ugly. I mean, and that's just my personal opinion. And you know, some people love them. I'm on the opposite end of that. The only reason I'm even doing the top bars out of the Jeep is because headroom. I'm 6 foot tall. When I sit in my Jeep, my head's not terribly far from the top of my Jeep.
Yeah.
And because of that, I don't want to knock my noggin when I'm wheeling it. You know, I don't want to have to wear a helmet every time I drive my Jeep off-road.
Right.
So I'm going to do it that way, and, you know, if I don't like it, I can always cut it off and start over.
That's the nice part of being able to do things yourself, because you can make changes whenever it suits you, whenever it's the best decision or whenever it suits you.
Well, and that's the greatest thing about working with metal. You know, if you screw it up, weld the two pieces back together and start over.
Yep.
It's okay. You know, I guess it's funny because I'm no carpenter by any stretch of the imagination. You know, if I were to build a house, I'd have a lot of leftover 2x4s because they'll all be cut too short.
Yeah.
You know, with metal, you know, if you cut it too short, it's okay. Weld it back together. Recut it. It'll be all right.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could do that with wood, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
This is Brian XJ, just calling in to tell you that we really like the website, full of a lot of tech and a lot of good people. I always get a response back quickly. Thanks. Have a good day.
This is Big Jim 350, and I f***ing love xjtalk.com.
Are you interested in being a guest on XJ Talk? Well, you can contact me via email, tony@xjtalk.com. That's tony@xjtalk.com.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you about xjtalk.com. It's a great site. There's no bashing. Everybody's nice and friendly. Great place to be.
Did you know that xjtalk.com is on Facebook? Just go to facebook.com/xjtalk and friend us. We're also on Twitter, twitter.com/xjtalk. Okay, guys, that was our part 2 of the Rene rguignard interview. Of course, the difficulties today made it such that I was not able to edit it properly, so it kind of ended abruptly. And I wasn't really ready for it to end abruptly. So, just want to thank Rene very much for doing that 1 hour long interview. Of course, that took us a little longer than an hour. And as you can tell, it was just a couple of guys talking about Jeeps and things that you do to them. So just reading the chat room here, Weldman says, when does Barney start to sing, I love you, you love me? I'm not sure what you're watching, Weldman. Oh, did Jim make it? Jim did make it. Jim, I was looking for your, looking for a text or something that I could send you a message. I didn't want you getting upset because you were missing the show. I did look for you on Skype, but I saw that you weren't online there. But glad you made it. And of course, you can always watch the show in its entirety by going to iTunes and subscribing to the podcast. And of course, we'll have the show available on Ustream and YouTube and maybe one of the major networks. I'm lying about the major network thing. So what's up, guys? How did you survive today with XJ Talk being down for, gosh, what was it, 2 hours, like from like 3:30 to close to 5, and then and then Jim says porn, and then it went back down, I guess, around 5:30, and was down till after 8. So I guess it was down more like 5 hours today. And like I said earlier, this all has to do, at least if same thing that happened the last time it was in the 20s here, which was what, the last week or something, last Friday. This all has to do with the electric company not planning for enough power to provide everybody sufficient power to run their heaters to stay warm. And, you know, they need to leave my power alone because I have a gas heater, central heat. I've got a gas water heater, and I've got a gas fireplace. And last Friday we had chili, and I had lots of personal gas. So, yeah, Houston is too cold. Well, it's all this damn global warming. Well, there's, that's interesting. There's some Mormons just across the street, fine people, and but it is cold here. Of course, they've always been across the street. They were across the street when we moved in, and that was about 12, 13 years ago. So we don't have Rene here to ask questions, but did you guys have any questions? I know everything that Rene told me, and it was only, a week ago or 2 weeks ago that we spoke, so I'm sure I know. Does that mean you're not going to work in the morning, Big Jim? Because I would think you on a roof with 20-degree weather would be lots of fun. I have a joke that I like to put on Twitter. It makes me laugh, and I don't think it makes anybody else laugh, but I still enjoy it because I laugh at it. If Al Gore fell over in the woods and there was nobody there to hear it, would he make a sound? The chat room fell silent. The Punisher says no. Well, I'm sure that there is a global climate change occurring because it's a secular thing that has happened for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. You can see that in the ice core records from Antarctica, North Pole, South Pole. Hell, I don't know. One of the poles, and I don't mean the Polish. Anyway, so yeah, I think that the climate is changing, and that's normal. That's natural. It's just like so many other things. Sun rises, sun sets. It's a cycle in nature. But what's our effect on it? I mean, we're very minuscule in what we do, what we are, and what we do to the earth. So, man, it just really gets me anytime I hear these things about save the planet. The planet doesn't give a rat's ass about us. It will survive just fine with or without us. We could drop every nuke that we have, and the Earth is going to go, well, that was interesting. And those cycles are going to clean everything up, and it's all going to go back to the way it was. We just won't be here. There's no saving the planet. The planet, we don't possess the technology to damage the planet sufficiently. It's all about saving us. So, if you want to do a promo for that semi-intelligent people can buy into, say, let's save humanity. Although I could probably figure that there's pockets of humanity that you don't care to save, and that's probably why they don't say that. That's probably why they say save the planet. But anyway. Oh, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. No, I was right that time too. Never mind. Waterworld, that would be cool. Web feet. Exactly. Screw the planet. Let's go mudding, Jim says. Zombies, we don't want to save them. Well, zombies, that would be pretty much anybody in politics. Don't even get me started. God, I hate it. Well, I'm sitting here talking, and then the screensaver kicks on, and both screens go blank. They go dark, and I'm like, oh my God, power outage. I gotta move the mouse, and I see everything else here is still on, so I figure it's okay. And it was.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
That's it?
Hi, Gordon. What you been up to?
Big things, Fred. I'm a full-time student at bartending college.
Wow. I never had time for a formal education.
Well, I decided to make time, but it's not easy. Bartending college is a 4-week course.
Gee, how far along are you?
Well, let's see. This is Tuesday, the 3rd week. Hey, I'm a junior, and I'm late for a daiquiri lecture. Why don't you join me?
Why not?
Bartending College.
You've already spent enough time on the other side of the bar to qualify for enrollment.
Bartending College.
We'll teach you everything you need to know. You'll get a starter set of bartenders' jokes like...
So I says to the guy, you can stay, but the cow's got to go.
Bartending College.
You'll learn how to roll drunks, water the liquor, and skim the cash register. And remember, as the bartender, you drink for free.
Last call.
For integrity.
You can stay, but the cow has to leave. It doesn't get much better than that. I don't know if you guys could hear that very well. The audio was kind of low on that one. I absolutely love this one. Oh, wait a minute.
I just wanted to say XJ Talk is the best fucking site in the fucking world. And if you think you know of a better fucking site, fuck you. By the way, this is Big Jim 350. Bye.
Do you like chili? Really hot chili? Then you should try O'Malley's new really f***ing hot chili. That's right, O'Malley's new really f***ing hot chili is so hot it's guaranteed to burn the roof of your f***ing mouth or your money back. Made from the hottest jalapenos, spices, and peppers. After just one bite, you'll say, wow, that's the hottest f***ing chili I've ever tasted. That's O'Malley's new really f***ing hot chili. From the makers of goddamn good chowder and ass-kicking soup. Pick some up at your f***ing grocer today. Remember, if it's not O'Malley's, it's not that f***ing hot.
This segment is brought to you by Iron Man 4x4, the toughest, most adjustable control arms in the industry. Ironman 4x4 has a wide variety of rugged off-road suspension products that are overbuilt and underpriced. Visit Ironman4x4fab.com today. That's Ironman4x4fab.com.
xjtalk.com. xjtalk.com.
It's where you go when you're not off-road.
I want to remind you guys of something that I thought about today. I'm thinking about adding a new segment to the show called Helpful Tips. And basically it would be something that would be relatively short, informative, that people may or may not know. I mean, we have all kinds of knowledge levels on the site. So what I was thinking was one of you that are listening, member of xjtalk.com or not, you could call into the voicemail line at 530-675-4102 and leave a helpful tip. What would be really good is if you would just say, who you are, if you're an XJ Talk member, what your name on the site is, where you're located, like Lexington, etc., Houston, Texas, etc., and then what your helpful tip is. And I have not tested it out to see how long a message you could leave, but I would imagine you could leave 2, 3, maybe even 5 minutes of a message. So a quick helpful tip, and then what I could do is play that on the show. That would give you guys a opportunity to be part of the show and contribute to the knowledge of people that may not already have this information. Because keep in mind, the people that we have in the chat room right now and usually are XJ Talk members, and we talk about things and we read all the posts, so we have a good idea of what the knowledge level is of the individuals on the site. But you don't know who might be listening, who might be watching on YouTube or the Ustream recording, so or even just listening to the podcast later. So it would be great if you would jump in and let your helpful tips be known. Well, Stefan, I don't know, or I should say I didn't know all that much either. I have pretty good mechanical knowledge, and it wasn't until I had to start working on my Jeep that I learned things. And, of course, getting on the websites like naxj.org was the first site I happened on, and it was very informative, and I learned a lot just by reading things. And when I'm under the Jeep or working on things, I can apply what I've seen, what I've read about, to what I'm seeing, and then make that association of how things go together. And it was actually very surprising to me how simple the Jeep is. It's a very way it's put together is a very simple thing, and I like that. I mean, from an engineering perspective, simple is good. It's very effective. I learned a couple of tips, like use a lot of PB Blaster. Well, from what I've read, if you're in a environment where it's cold, ice, snow, and they use a lot of salt, which you're in Utah, and I would assume that they do, then yeah, you have to learn how to use the things that break the rust apart. Well, the Renex is just a engine, right? I mean, that's the only difference between the HO, the engine that I have in my 98, and the Renex, which was before the 96 and before. So I don't think that. I mean, there's the Renex systems have a closed, lost it, radiator engine coolant system. They have a closed system, whereas the 96 or 97 Ford have an open system. Oh, okay. So what was it? So 92 would be the HO engines? Okay. Well, that's good to know, because I would like to get another Cherokee at some point. And it would be nice to get one that would be a a similar engine to what I have, and not a Rene, simply because it would be different than what I'm used to. I'd love to have like another 98 or 1999 Jeep Cherokee. Actually, I'd like to have one for my daughters to drive. My oldest daughter is, well, actually, they're both driving age now. My youngest daughter just turned 16 yesterday, so she could technically start driving. We can't afford for them to, but they technically could be driving. I wouldn't want them driving around by themselves anyway. It's just not something that I would be comfortable with. Although I started driving when I was 16, and man, I was all over the place. My parents were crazy. They should have been keeping closer tabs on me. But what are you going to do? Well, I hope the low turnout in the chat room is just a sign of starting late and not a decline in our viewership. Although I think there's a few people that would have been here. I know Rene would have been here if it wasn't past his bedtime. Actually, we lost somebody, and Wayne's not here. I just realized that Cantab 27 isn't with us either. Oh well, you can always watch on the watch the recording or listen to the recording. Yeah, he may have been on closer to 8 o'clock when the show, 8 o'clock Central, when the show was supposed to have been on. Let's see. Weldman says, Tony, did you see my grill guard I made? No, I didn't. Of course, the site didn't come up until about 8:15, 8:20. I had a bunch of database errors that I had to correct, and I was in the middle of getting all this set up, ready to go, in kind of double time method. So I haven't had a lot of time to read anything that's on the site, but I'll be going there now here in a minute. I think the site's all repaired, and there's no more database errors. Just to remind you guys, please call in to our voicemail line, 530-675-4102, and leave your comments, any feedback, and as I said earlier, a helpful tip that we can play on the air. Would love to have something other than my voice to play on the show. I mean, listening to my voice was fun there at first, but you know. So as you know, xjtalk.com, a Jeep Cherokee website. We have lots of great people on there. We're getting more members every day. So if you're not a member, please join. Come by and say hello. My name is Motorroy on the site, and I hope to see you on there. So guys, barring any other unforeseen situations, we'll see you again next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central. Thank you very much for showing up tonight, and again, very sorry we're late.
This is Big Jim 350, and I fucking love xjtalk.com. I just wanted to say XJ Talk is the best fucking site in the fucking world, and if you think you know of a better fucking site, fuck you. By the way, this is Big Jim 350. Bye.